Guys, this is Joshua Snow from J Snow Photography and Creative Imagery. I was recently out in Utah for a whole week. We did almost 4 full days in Arches, in Moab, in Canyonlands, and Dead Horse. Shot a lot of astro, a lot of landscapes, and then we moved to toward Zion. Um, it was a really good trip. I shot a lot of really great images that I'm pretty proud of. So one of the things I've been being asked a lot lately is how I blend my long exposure foregrounds and my skies, because typically I shoot a very low ISO, very long exposure for a foreground, and then I shoot very short high ISO images for my sky, and then I stack them together. And this is all in an effort to decrease noise. Um, so you can kind of see over here, I have a foreground exposure and a sky exposure. If I zoom in really close, you can see here's my sky, and there's no noise. And these were shot at ISO 10,000. And if I hide that one, you can see my foreground. It's got tons of detail, very little noise, some hot pixels, but very little noise. And those hot pixels are really easy to take care of, but that'll be another tutorial. Um, So really quick, I just want to mask them together. And on an image like this, when you've got high contrast between the sky and the foreground, this is going to be super easy. So let's get started. Firstly, I'm going to hide this with a black mask, Option, and then the mask icon. It's going to give you a black mask. White reveals, black conceals. Remember that. So I'm going to go back into my channels, and I'm going to pick my blue channel. I know that just out of habit, but if you just kind of just scroll through these, you can see that the blue gives us the most separation between the sky and the foreground. This is going to be really important. This is kind of the intro into luminosity masking, if you've ever heard anything on that. It's kind of changed my processing forever. So we're going to command click, select it, and then hit this little mask icon down here, and it's going to give us that mask as an alpha channel. So I'm going to command D to deselect. Without command clicking on this, I'm going to go image, adjustment, levels, and we're going to do what's called clamping. This is going to increase the contrast between the sky and the foreground. You could do this with curves too. I just like levels better. So now you can see that pretty much the sky around the arch is blown out, and the arch is kind of has gone black in some places, and it's getting kind of crunchy up here. This is okay. This is what we want. I'm going to click OK. And to further refine this, firstly, I'm going to select the dodge tool. This is going to be a multi-step process, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fast. Highlights, make sure I'm on highlights. I'm going to go 100%, and I'm just going to paint around these edges. And because we've already crunched this up, it's seeing all these edges as shadows, and it's not going to affect them, or should not affect them very much. And we're going to go back and clean them up afterwards. But just going to trace around here. Just going to really focus on the edge right now because that's the most important part. I'm going to kind of stay away from these edges real quick while I have the dodge tool open, and I'm just going to focus on the pretty much black and white areas just to make sure that white is white and black is black. And I'm going to kind of toggle between the burn tool and the dodge tool. I went back to the burn tool. I'm going to go shadows, about 20%, and I'm just going to burn in these areas. I want these to go completely black. You might have to select some midtones, or you can pretty much stay on shadows and just keep pounding it in there. Yeah, I'm gonna need the midtone. I mean, I'll be here all day if I try to just keep using shadows. So it's even not liking some of these areas. Let's go highlights. See what happens. See, I don't want to use highlights because I don't want it to affect what I've just made white. So if we just change the hardness, make sure this is nice and hard, and I can get in there really kind of, even if I just tone it down to this point, now my mid-tone brush should work. Mid-tone burn tool should work. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to Dodge tool and just bang that highlight back in there. Quick burn tool again. There we go. So we toned it down and now it's seeing it as shadows, which is helpful. If you've got a tiny little bit of artifacting there, we'll call it artifacting. That's okay. We can fix that. Basically, the idea behind this is to do as little hand masking as possible. I don't want to do any hand masking, or none if I can avoid it. So what I might do here is I'll just go back to brush tool, set black as my foreground color. And just take care of these little hot spots that I can't seem to do with the increase my brush size. And now that my arch is completely black, I'm going to go big with my brush, go to white, and just get rid of the rest of the sky. Oop. Careful not to go over any of your black. There, now we've got a black and white selection. Only took me a couple minutes, and it's pretty much all downhill from here. Command click on your mask, like I have, and come back to your black mask. You're going to see the marching ants. Command H to hide. Big white brush, full opacity. You can build up your opacity, you can build up your flow. I know that the selection's pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it full opacity. I'm going to go to select, refine edge, and this is just kind of a safety measure. Just in case I missed a little bit, like I know this spot's going to be a little iffy. I went over it a little too hard with the shadow tool, so that's going to be a little bit rough. You can kind of see there. I'll go back to my mask. Too late now. Command click. Back here to your black mask. Command H. Select. Refine edge. And I'm just going to increase the shift edge a little bit. Start to see here on the outside, it's just bringing out the inside a little bit. I'm going to tone that back down. So we'll say 40. So it's just barely. Okay. 100%, Command H to hide again, and watch this. Now, I only went on the outside because I just want to double check something. I'm going to Command D to deselect, Command click again on my mask. Come back here, come in 100%, select, fine edge, and I just want to look at the selection again, what it's going to do for me. And it's riding pretty close to that edge. I do want it to shift that edge inward a little bit. There we go. Had to crank it up a lot more than I typically like to. Might even back it down. We'll say 75. Maybe even 60. There. I think that'll be good. Command H and paint with white. See what it did. I don't like that orange edge from the exposure below. Back out, and I'm going to redo that. Command D, Command click, select, fine edge, we'll just drop this back down to 40 like it was before and call it good. Still kind of getting that funky edge. This can take some trial and error. Sometimes it's not super cut and dry. If you take your time when you mask and you do your dodging and burning in your channel masking, you'll get a better result. Certainly trying to rush it for sake of keeping your tutorial time down is not benefit to the photograph at all. So I'm going to leave it at 40, and I'm actually going to bring this down to half a pixel feather. And I think it's going to be much better. And it was perfect. 100%. It's a lot better, a lot cleaner. Bring my brush size way, way down. And just gonna Command D to deselect. Even smaller. And just paint this little notch in. And there we have it. Completely masked together. And we'll look at the mask so you can see. This is always helpful if you Alt or Option on a Mac and click on your mask. You can see where you missed, where you've got some bad blending. And this is really important. So I'm just going to go back in here with a black brush and just make sure I got all those areas. Sometimes it's hard to see when you're making your channel mask. Spots like this. Again, take your time. This is something I would have caught when making the channel mask. Why I was getting that weird fringing from the exposure below in these areas is because I didn't burn it out completely. You can even go as far as looking back at this mask, grabbing your burn tool again on shadows. Really getting that edge good. And there we go. Check our mask again. Looks good. Maybe I'll just crop this square. I don't typically do square, but that vertical Milky Way doesn't really seem to do this picture any justice, so probably just frame it like that. There we go. Not much left to do. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helps.